What's up? We got Arrow Season 2, Episode 18, Deathstroke. So this episode starts off in Slade's car, where we see Thea and Slade talking, and Thea's giving Slade, telling Slade about how Roy broke up with her, and and he explains about how he's dealt with some heartbreak, Shadow, and about how he dealt and how he never gets over it. So when Thea drops him off, Thea's like, this isn't her house. And he's like, you're not going home, Thea. Get out! And Thea runs into, Brother Blood and gets kidnapped. So then we see Roy trying to an arrow and an arrow. So then Oliver goes. Felicity reminds him that he has a meeting, so he goes to that meeting, and decides to, and a little bit early, so he meets with his mom, and she's like, hey, have you seen Thea? And she's like, no. And she's like, just because we're not talking doesn't mean you don't have to come to the debate. So then at the debate, they get the voice message from Thea saying, and she's like, and Oliver notices that, and Laurel's there, and they mentioned about how Laurel apologizes to Sebastian Blood or Hot Dan or Evil Dan for everything she said about him, and he's like, hey, you were going through a hard time, even though everything that she said was true. Going through a hard time. He's glad she's mending. So but anyway. But anyways, they find out where Slade is. I was like, where is? Roy tries to beat him up, but he's like, hey, call Lance to arrest Slade Wilson. So Oliver tries to talk to Slade. They're like, hey, you were wrong to arrest Slade because he was entirely in a different continent, and Moira even says he's a family friend. He's a friend. How's he a friend? You guys only met for like one episode. How's he a friend? You guys only met for one episode. So I like the moment where they're like, hey, was there anyone to hurt Thea? And she flashes back to Merlin. Because Merlin is evil. So Malcolm Merlin is evil. So she flashed back to Malcolm Merlin. But anyway, Slade lets go. Slade's let go. Roy's now mad because he's like, hey, blame Oliver because he was like, hey, you gotta break up with Thea, but before that he was like, you gotta stay near Thea, and he tries to think, and Thea shoots an arrow at him saying, you're hurting his friend, and you're hurting her friend, and he leaves saying, I believe in you, Oliver, I'm done. Bye, Team Arrow. And Roy leaves. So now we lost Roy as a Team Arrow member. So then we see Thea, and she's with Slade, and Slade's like, hey, you're free to go. But he's like, hey, I know your brother's secret. Do you want to know what it is? And it's like, is he going to tell her? So Oliver busts in, but then realizes that Thea's not there because she walked into the precinct. And he reveals, and she's like, hey, Mr. Wilson told me your secret. That you've been lying for me for years. How could you not tell her that Malcolm Merlin was her father? Bum, Malcolm Merlin is her dad. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then he's like, hey, we're only trying to protect you. And she was like, yeah, I believed in you, Oliver. And you know who you sound like? You sound like Moira. So bye. And then Slade busts into Laurel's apartment. He's like, yo, Laurel. Yeah, after letting him go, he busts into Laurel's apartment being like, yo, Laurel. Oliver. She's like, I've come here to make Oliver suffer. And she's like, why would you do that? Because he was like, because Oliver Queen is the arrow. Yeah, he tells Laurel, and Laurel's shocked, and he's like, bye. So yeah, I have to find out what happens in the next episode. But yeah, but then Oliver made Isabel Rochef, the temporary CEO, but she was able to convince the Queen Consolidated Company to make her full-time boss. Yeah, because she's the worst like that. So he's like, yeah, because she was like, wow, now I know how you spend your evenings. And he was like, Slade, you're working for him. And she's like, no, working with him. And yeah, Isabel Rochev has been working with Slade the entire time, and he put her in Queen Consolidated because he knew it would bring him back to Starling City. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. I cannot believe this. So they get into a fight. Oliver, Isabel mentions that Isabel tells Oliver that she and Oliver's dad had an affair, but Oliver's dad chose all his family, so she wants to get revenge on Oliver. Another moment where Oliver has to overcome his dad's past actions. This show loves doing that so many times. Yeah, where dad did something in the past, and Oliver has to come to terms with how to deal with it. The show loves doing that, The show loves doing that, saying, "Oh, hey Oliver, your dad did something," and Oliver's like, "Okay, gotta go deal with it. Stop doing the show. Stop doing this. This is really annoying." That you keep making Oliver do this. It's really annoying. But yeah. So Sebastian Wood comes in and it's like, Evil Dan comes in and it's like, hey, what do you have against what is your obsession with the Queen family? And he's like, and she's like, you haven't told him yet, have you? And he's like, you promised me. And he's like, I promised you the city, blood. I'm going to deliver it. I promised you an army, and I'm going to deliver it too. And then, yeah, and she's like, now Queen Consolidated has done evil stuff now, and is now making a serum based on his blood, because of course they are. And that's the Laurel reveal is where the episode ends, but I decided to mention the other stuff because it's mentionable. So we got Laurel knows Oliver's secret. Thea now knows that Laurel and Oliver lied to her. Quentin's arrested for aiding the vigilante because his captain's a buzzkill Pike, and yeah, that's the episode. I really enjoyed this one. We also got to see Slade in his Deathstroke suit for the second time. And boy, does it still look great. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Yeah, but anyway, that's it for this episode, and I'll see you next time for some more Arrow.